In the turbulent landscape of 1960s America, an era of racial uprisings, political assassinations, and revolutionary movements, a single prisoner inside a California cell block would become one of the most influential voices of Black resistance. His name was George Lester Jackson. His writings and his death would ignite prison rebellions across the country and lead to the creation of one of the most politically rooted prison organizations in U.S. history, the Black Guerrilla Family, or BGF. Chapter 1. A prisoner becomes a revolutionary. George Jackson entered the California prison system at age 18, sentenced to 1 year to life for a $70 gas station robbery, a sentence structure designed, in that era, to control young Black men indefinitely. Inside prison, Jackson encountered the rawest form of American racism: segregated yards, hostile guards, white supremacist prison gangs, brutality with no recourse. But instead of being broken, he transformed. During the 11 years he spent behind bars, he devoured political theory: Marx, Lenin, Mao, Frantz Fanon. He studied economics, military strategy, history, and philosophy. Prison became his university, his forge. Through letters to his family and comrades, later published in Soledad Brother, he exposed the racial and economic mechanics of incarceration with a level of clarity that shook the outside world. To many activists, George Jackson became a symbol of intellectual resistance behind bars. Chapter 2. The Birth of the Black Guerrilla Family. Around 1966, inside San Quentin State Prison, Jackson, alongside W.L. Nolan, George Big Jake Lewis, and other radicalized prisoners, helped form what would eventually be called the Black Guerrilla Family, BGF, a prison-based political organization whose core goals were uphold Black dignity and self-defense inside prison, unite Black prisoners in the face of racism and state violence, promote revolutionary political education, not just gang affiliation, fight institutional oppression, including abusive guards and racist policies, align with global anti-imperialist struggles, Africa, Asia, Latin America. The BGF envisioned themselves as a vanguard army, a disciplined group of political soldiers operating behind the walls. Where street gangs fought over territory, the BGF fought over ideology. Chapter 3. Structure organization inside prison. While prison conditions varied, a general ideological structure formed. 1. The central leadership, the collective. This was not a king or boss, but a political council of senior educated members who set ideological direction and enforced discipline. Jackson himself was viewed as a leading teacher and strategist. 2. Cadre, lieutenants members responsible for political education, maintaining unity, and resolving conflicts. They were also expected to protect vulnerable Black inmates from predatory groups. 3. General members, soldiers, fully initiated individuals who lived by the organization's political principles: self-defense, solidarity, study, and discipline. 4. Supporters, sympathizers, not fully initiated, but aligned politically or culturally. Many participated in study groups, political classes, or collective protection. Key principles: political education over violence, collective discipline, protection of Black inmates, resistance to racism and state abuse, revolutionary ideology. The BGF was never meant to be a street gang in the traditional sense. Its founders saw it as a political liberation movement operating under extreme, hostile conditions. The Black Guerrilla Family. Membership, Codes Constitution, Historical Overview. 1. Historical membership, how someone was brought in. Historically, in the late 1960s, 1970s, joining BGF was not like joining a street gang. It was closer to joining a revolutionary political cadre. Requirements: historical, political era. Political education. New members had to study George Jackson's writings, Marxist theory, military strategy, and Black liberation philosophy. Discipline loyalty. Members were expected to show discipline, maintain unity, and follow strict political principles. Protection commitment. They had to prove they were committed to uplifting and protecting Black prisoners from racist violence and guard abuse. Endorsement. A senior member, or multiple, would vouch for the recruit's loyalty and political understanding. Testing. Recruits were observed for months, sometimes years, to ensure they did not talk to guards, inform, or break solidarity. In the early days, BGF was extremely selective. It saw itself as a revolutionary vanguard, not a large street gang. 2. Did the BGF have codes? Yes. Historically, they followed a strict ideological code, which included a political loyalty code. Members pledged loyalty to the liberation of black people, anti-racist struggle, anti-imperialist ideology, unity against guard brutality and white supremacist gangs. B. Conduct discipline. Code. Members were expected to remain silent under pressure, avoid unnecessary conflict with other black groups, maintain physical training, follow leadership, protect the weak, uphold revolutionary values. In and out of prison. The code was less about crime and more about political discipline and survival in an oppressive prison system. 3. Did they have names, ranks, or titles? Yes. Historically, the BGF used a military-inspired structure. Typical hierarchy, varied by prison and era. Central Committee, Supreme Leadership, senior ideological leaders, not always the same as operational commanders. Generals / captains led prisons or sections. Lieutenants, cadre leaders, oversaw political education, conflict resolution, and daily discipline. Soldiers, members fully initiated BGF political participants. Prospects, supporters, non-members who aligned with the ideology but were not fully initiated. The original structure emphasized political training over violence. 4. Did the BGF have a constitution? Yes. Historically, the BGF used written political documents. These included the Supreme Constitution, a set of ideological principles defining their purpose, goals, and discipline. Codes of conduct, rules governing behavior, loyalty, and revolutionary ethics. Oaths or affirmations. Historical sources mention oaths of commitment to political struggle and solidarity. Study materials, often including George Jackson's Soledad Brother, Blood in My Eye, Mao's Little Red Book, Marxist texts, Fanon, and anti-imperialist writings. These documents were political in nature and framed the BGF as a black liberation army, not a criminal gang. 5. Symbols, historical identifiers. BGF historically used a black dragon, a rifle and sword crossed over a book, the numbers 2 to 7 to 6, letters BGF, the color black for political struggle. These were originally ideological symbols, not street gang colors or signs. 6. Important clarification, 2 branches over time. Over decades, the BGF split into 2 major currents. 1. The political wing still focused on Black liberation, revolutionary theory, discipline, prisoner rights, anti-racism. 2. The criminal and street wing law enforcement documents describe modern factions as involved in drug operations, extortion, organized prison violence. This shift happened many years after George Jackson's death, as the original political discipline fragmented. Black Guerrilla Family. Name symbol explained. The name Black Guerrilla Family, BGF, reflects the group's original purpose when it was founded in the late 1960s inside California prisons. Black represents black identity, unity, and resistance against racist oppression inside the prison system. Guerrilla refers to guerrilla fighters, small, disciplined, politically motivated groups fighting a larger oppressive force. This came from the revolutionary teachings George Jackson studied, like African liberation armies, the Cuban Revolution, and the Viet Cong. Family symbolizes loyalty, protection, and unity among members, emphasizing a political brotherhood rather than a traditional gang structure. The dragon symbol. The black dragon became the main emblem of the BGF. It represents power and strength, revolutionary energy, fearlessness in the face of oppression, wisdom and discipline. In many cultures, dragons symbolize guardianship and unstoppable force. BGF adopted the dragon as a sign of rebellion, protection, and revolutionary fire inside a hostile prison environment. Side note: George Jackson was a member of the Black Panther Party, BPP, while he was incarcerated. In 1970, the Panthers made him the field marshal of the BPP, responsible for organizing inside prisons and spreading political education among inmates. Key points: he wasn't a street-level Panther like those in Oakland or Chicago. His role was political and ideological, focused on prison resistance and liberation theory. The Panthers saw him as a powerful revolutionary voice and a symbol of the struggle against racist policing and mass incarceration. His writings, Soledad Brother, Blood in My Eye, became required reading within the movement. Chapter 4. Soledad, San Quentin. The Making of a Martyr. In 1970, George Jackson's 17-year-old brother Jonathan attempted to free him by storming a Marin County courtroom with guns. The attempt failed. Jonathan died, and the state blamed George for the plan. In August 1971, Jackson was shot and killed by guards during an alleged escape attempt inside San Quentin. The details remain contested. Some say he tried to escape. Others argue he was executed to silence a political revolutionary. His death sparked uprisings, hunger strikes, and protests across the country. To many prisoners, black, brown, and white radicals alike, George Jackson became a martyr for the struggle against what he called the prison industrial slave complex. Chapter 5. BGF, after George Jackson. After Jackson's death, the BGF continued to grow and spread through California prisons, federal penitentiaries, some East Coast and Southern institutions. Two currents developed over time. 1. The political revolutionary wing focused on education, self-determination, anti-racism, and reforming the prison system. 2. The criminal gang-labeled wing law enforcement increasingly portrayed the BGF as a traditional prison gang involved in drug trafficking, extortion, and violence. Both realities existed at different times and places, depending on leadership, prison conditions, and outside pressure. The FBI and California authorities treated the BGF as a major threat due to its political nature, sometimes even more than its criminal allegations. Regardless of interpretation, the organization remained one of the most ideologically driven prison groups in American history. Chapter 6. Legacy. George Jackson's influence lives on in radical prison movements, Black studies scholarship, activist groups, challenging mass incarceration, political writings still read worldwide, the Black Guerrilla Family's legacy is complex, part political organization, part self-defense network, part prison gang depending on era and region. But at its core, it began as a response to racism, oppression, and violence inside American prisons, forces still present today. Conclusion. George Jackson's life demonstrates how a human being can become a symbol, how a young man, sent to prison for $70, grew into an international voice for liberation. The Black Guerrilla Family, born from that same fire, reflected both the hope and the harshness of its environment, an attempt to create dignity and political consciousness in one of the most oppressive spaces in America. The story is not just about crime or rebellion, it is about resistance, identity, and the unbroken will of a people who refuse to be erased behind prison walls.